her right hand.
You can just put that down. Thanks.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Obviously.
Please be seated. Prosecution, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Oak, could you describe your background for the court?
Sure. So first off, my name is Kim Oak. I am Kim Jong-Il's, some say fourth, but I would say fifth, and obviously the best wife. I was born in Pyongyang in 1964, and I was studying at the Pyongyang University for Music and Dance. If you guys aren't familiar, in Korea, if you are a music major like piano, harp, you're a very highly coveted individual. I was a piano major, so obviously I was recruited in to his cabinet.
Thank you. So, how long have you known the accused?
Let's see, since the late 1980s.
And what has your relationship with him been?
Well, first I was his personal secretary, but we all know what that means. And then I went on to be taken as his wife.
Okay. So, were you in close proximity with the day-to-day life of the defendant?
Yes, I coordinated his schedule. I knew everything that he was doing, everywhere he was. We were basically attached at the hip. It was fate. Really.
Cool. So, do you think he was healthy?
Well, I would say he was the healthiest guy I've ever vetted, but I mean, that's just me.
And would you say that he was responsible for the decisions that were being made?
I mean, he was very conscientious of what he was doing up until he had his stroke in 2008, and after that, it was more of a partnership that we had in healing Korea.
So, before 2008, he was absolutely, completely in control.
Yes.
And even after 2008, he still exercised an extraordinary, would you say, an extraordinary amount of influence and control over the affairs of government.
Well, I mean, do you know who he was? He was our beloved ruler. He was like the alpha and omega of North Korea. Let's go, get on it.
So, would you say that the decisions or the actions that were being taken by the regime, even up to or past 2008, were things that he was involved in? Was he involved in those deliberations?
I'm sorry, could you ask me the question again?
Was he involved in the deliberations after 2008 about the activities of the regime?
Yes. Everything that happened had to have gone through him.
Okay, so he exercised fairly complete control.
Yes, he had final say.
Okay, and do you think there were any real challengers to his authority?
I mean, everyone wanted his position. There were always military personnel, generals. I'm sure there were people in South Korea who envied him. But I mean, he can hold his own.
Okay, so based on what you've said about his involvement, his control in the government, do you think he should have known, and should be the standard, do you think he should have known about the crimes of which he is accused?
Would you like to elaborate that a little bit further, which crimes specifically?
Sure. Do you think he should have known, for instance, about the torpedoing or the shelling or the prison camps?
Oh, that was just like a silly exercise that he was letting his sons do because they wanted to show that they had power but really didn't. And I mean, that's why there weren't more people that were killed. They had no idea what they were doing. But I mean, yeah, he kind of sent them off and let them do their own thing, but he knew. We all knew.
When you say he let his sons do this, are you referring specifically to the shelling or the torpedoing?
To both.
Okay. And so even though he allowed his sons to do this, he was aware of what they were doing?
Of course.
And do you think when he sent his sons off in this way, do you think he thought that it would end up in something like this?
Could you clarify that?
Do you think that when he gave his sons this authority, do you think he suspected it would result in an action like the torpedoing or the shelling?
Well, yes. I mean, North Korea is obviously one of the great powers of the world, and we have to consistently keep that image up. It's like a really tough life, but he knew what they were doing.
Okay. And so you think, overall, it's fair to say that Kim was aware of what was going on in government, even after 2008?
Yes.
And he exercised essentially control over what was going on, even after 2008?
Yes.
And you say this based on, as you said, very close proximity and involvement in Kim's affairs?
Yes, I was probably, no, actually, I was the closest person to him since, let's say, the late 1990s.
Okay. The prosecution has no further questions.
Thank you. Defense, do you have a cross for this witness?
Indeed.
You may proceed.
Oh, so hot.
So given your intimate connection with my client, you knew about his illness, his stroke in 2008. You knew the intimate details of how profoundly it affected him, yes?
Yes, I was the only person he really let see him in that condition. It was bad for him.
And you knew his health has been deteriorating for the last decade.
I think decade is a little bit of an overestimate, but yes, it's been a few years.
So you also seem to know a lot about Torpedo and the shelling incident, both crimes of which he's being accused of. Perhaps a little too much to just be the secretary?
Well, I mean, I wasn't just his secretary. I was the love of his life. We got married, and I mean, he told me all of the intimate details of what was going on in his head every day. I mean, I knew everything.
And yet, you also seem to claim that his son was in charge of this exercise. Which son would you say did it?
Kim Jong-Un, the third son.
And,
The third legitimate son.
and he is the supposed heir to the North Korean government?
Yes, he was until he died.
Yet, up until that point, you said that you had worked in a partnership with Mr. Kim, is that correct?
Yeah.
And you were his eyes, ears, brain, hand. So, quite easily, you could have taken advantage of his sickness and changed his orders, correct?
I would never do that.
So you claim no heavy involvement in any of the crimes he's being accused of today?
Well, I mean, I obviously knew about certain things that were happening, but I would never go against what he told me to do.
Madam, let me clarify. You claim to be his brain. You helped make his relevant day-to-day decisions, did you not?
Well, I mean, are you looking at me? I'm very clever, I'm very capable.
But then, how could he communicate? You claim that the decisions that you implemented on his favor were his own decisions, correct?
Yes.
How did he communicate these decisions to you?
Have I told you I like your tie? It's really nice.
Thank you so much, but focusing on community, how would you say that how did you say that he communicated these decisions to you if he lacked the ability to communicate them to anyone else?
Well, I wasn't just anyone. And I mean, you know, pillow talk, he's very honest and things like that. And so he would tell me what he needed to get done, and if he was unable to get to those things by the end of the day, given his physical ailments, I would take over from there.
So you are telling the International Criminal Court that you would consider your pillow talk with Kim Jong-Il to be considered serious and true testimony?
100%.
Very bold statement. And you were also asked to sign off on some of his orders, correct?
Yes, he trusted my judgment, and he trusted me as a confidant, so I would sign off on things if he needed me to.
And this would give you a lot of opportunity to change said orders, is that not true?
No.
It wouldn't give you the opportunity?
Well, I mean, you're manipulating words. Like, obviously, I could do whatever I wanted, but that's not what I would do.
Now, shortly before he was arrested, he changed lovers, did he not, for perhaps a younger, more vivacious girl?
That's what you want to refer to her as?
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, there is a saying that goes, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." How do you know that this is not one of those cases? She could just as easily be here incriminating him, making sure that he pays for changing her for a younger model.
She wasn't a model. First of all, she was a dancer. And then on top of that, I was his only true love. We all knew that.
And once you were out
She
of
was
his
just
bed,
like a little toy. He's like a goldfish, you know? Whatever he sees as the next shiny thing, that's what he wants.
yet when you were out of his bed, where did this leave you?
I mean, I managed.
Really? And prior to this, you'd always been a member of the North Korean elite, you said?
Yes, I was probably a member of the upper class.
So you come to this court not only as a rejected lover, but as a bitter former elite. Is that correct?
Yes?
And you claim that this would give you absolutely no reason to incriminate my client.
Obviously not.
Do not lie under oath, madam. Do you still love Kim Jong-Il?
I refuse to answer that question.
That's what I thought. And yet, she claims that she was the love of his life, right? Perhaps so much.
I was the love of his life. Get that
Perhaps
straight.
so much love of his life that you'd rather let him rot in prison than see him with anyone else?
Objection, is this relevant?
Counselor, I'm merely trying to say that there is a bias in the testimony this witness provides to this court.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Very well. Nothing further.
Prosecution, do you have a redirect for this witness?
I do not.
Seeing none, we will then proceed to open the floor up to judges' questioning. Let's begin with Botswana.
You said after 2008 you were with him closely after he had a stroke. Could you relay some experiences you had with him when he was perhaps not as what he used to be in his mental capacity?
Well, so he resorted to staying in the bedroom chambers for the majority of the day, some days when he wasn't feeling well. And he almost didn't even want bodyguards around. He didn't want anyone to see him in that condition. And so I was kind of the liaison between him and the rest of the world, anyone else. So if he needed me to sit in on meetings, he knew that I knew enough about what was going on in the government with the military to make an executive decision as a proxy for him.
Can I do a quick follow-up?
You may.
Okay. How do you feel his cognitive skills were right after that stroke?
I'm sorry?
His cognitive skills. How do you think they were affected after the stroke?
I mean, I don't know if anyone here has had a loved one who's been affected by such a horrible medical condition, but it's obviously something that does set someone back, but he was half God, so it wasn't that bad.
You're claiming he recovered very well after.
That's enough questioning from that justice. Thank you very much. Let's go to China.
My question is, since